Dear friends, as the Universal House of Justice reminds us in its Rizwan message this year, we are in the last year of phase 1 of the 9-year plan. As you recall, in Rizwan 2021, the House of Justice announced a new series of plans with a focus on the release of the society-building power of the faith in ever greater measures. And in Rizwan 2022, it launched the 9-year plan and advised us to view it as unfolding in 2 phases of 4 and 5 years duration. Some of the undertakings of phase 1 could be seen as preparatory in the sense that progress on each one of them would result in further acceleration of progress towards the aim of not just the 9-year plan, but the whole series of new plans until 2046. These preparations, you'll recall, include a number of actions such as an examination of some of the details of the scheme of dividing the countries into clusters, the settlement of pioneers where necessary, and a shift in the way we think about and conduct our activities, a shift emerging from a deeper understanding of the 9-year plan and the concepts it encompasses. The subsequent 3 Rizwan messages shared the joy of progress made on some of these preparatory steps, including the company of the faithful having gained a fresh perspective and a profound insight into the significance of what they seek to achieve, the plan having inspired and galvanized the friends and given impetus to particular lines of action, the fact that the Friends of God have taken its objectives firmly to heart, and that across the Baha'i world there is an increased depth of understanding about what is required to further extend the process of community building and effect profound social transformation. Moreover, advances in the process of growth made possible by devoted pioneers who have hastened to posts in the home front and abroad in excessive numbers is praised. Our attention is also drawn to the fact that through shining examples of noble endeavor, the vision offered by the faith is filling more and more hearts with hope. The same passages also tell us that with every passing day, the condition of the world grows more desperate, its divisions more severe, affecting peoples and places in myriad ways, and clarify that the situation demands from every conscientious soul a response, while reassuring us that the methods and instruments of the plan allow every soul to contribute a share of what humanity needs in this day, calling for a sustained rapid rise in the number of those committing their time, their energy, their concentration to the success of this work, and remind us of the vibrancy and strength generated when youth are awakened to the vision of Baha'u'llah. These messages draw to our attention that the call to service is an uplifting, all-embracing summons that attracts every faithful soul, even those weighed down by cares and obligations, and issues an appeal that all must search, but the youth must soar. The 2025 Rizwan message ends with this paragraph. Against the gloom of a stormy sky, how bright the light that gleams from your devoted efforts. Even as the tempest rages in the world, the havens that will shelter humanity are being built in countries, regions, and clusters. But there is much to do. Each national community has its own expectations for the progress to be made during this, the plan's opening phase. Time is passing. Beloved friends and promulgators of the divine teachings and champions of the blessed beauty, your efforts are needed now. Every advance made in the fleeting months before next Rizwan will better equip the community of the greatest name for what it must accomplish in the plan's second phase. May you be granted success. For this, we beseech the Sovereign Lord. For this, we implore His unfailing aid. For this, we entreat Him to send forth His favored angels to assist each one of you. This year's Rizwan message highlights once again the centrality of capacity for thinking and learning about growth at the cluster level, saying the 9-year plan relies on a vast global process of learning that is as effective in the highlands of Bolivia as in the suburbs of Sydney. This fundamental point regarding the prosecution of the plan, namely growth in capacity and understanding of the friends at the grassroots for guiding the process of community building, is also clarified by the House of Justice in a letter dated 6 February 2025 addressed to a National Spiritual Assembly, where it says, "As you know, the work underway cannot be facilitated by a centralized process, however well conceived or implemented. Instead, progress depends on the growth in capacity and understanding of the friends at the grassroots." Any preparatory work this year, therefore, to further accelerate a shift at the cluster level from anxiety for a rapid increase in the number of activities to a commitment to systematic action in a posture of learning aimed at a steady process of capacity building and organic growth will no doubt assist the progress of the plan in its second phase. We know that the 9-year plan has specific goals as announced in the letter of 30th of December 2021 and the Rizwan message of 2022 of the House of Justice. Based on this global picture, each national community, in the words of the House of Justice, has its own expectations for the progress to be made during this, the plan's opening phase. Canada, for instance, has a national plan for phase 1 of the 9-year plan formulated by the National Assembly in consultation with the councillors. The Canadian National Plan includes a breakdown of the progress expected to be achieved each year. Based on the national plan, every Bahá'í council where it exists, such as in Canada, also has a plan for its region, plans devised in consultation with the cluster agencies and the friends at the grassroots. These regional plans indicate the level of progress expected in each cluster. Even if annual progress in each cluster is not necessarily formulated in a systematic manner, what is intended to happen every year in the clusters around the world forms a major part of the goals of the 9-year plan. This is how, dear friends, every devoted follower of Baha'u'llah has the opportunity and the bounty of direct service to the onward march of the divine plan by helping with the achievement of his or her own cluster goals. This is how everyone attracted to his vision can do his or her own utmost to contribute to the fulfillment of the betterment of the world as envisaged by Baha'u'llah. Therefore, another fundamental preparatory work will be for the majority of the friends and those attracted to the vision of Baha'u'llah to gain a deeper understanding of the importance of achieving the goals of the divine plan at each one of its stages. In the words of the Universal House of Justice to a National Spiritual Assembly, about the importance of achieving the goals in the first 9-year plan, we read, "The achievement of these goals is of the utmost urgency and importance because the followers of Baha'u'llah are engaged in a race against time. Mankind is being engulfed in the ruin precipitated by its own folly. The longer we Baha'is delay in achieving the tasks that God lays before us, the greater is the suffering of our fellow men." Explaining that the believers should consider the goals, recognize that they are intended to be won, decide what is needed to win them, and then, however hopeless the prospect may seem, set out determinedly to do whatever is needed, confident that Baha'u'llah will reinforce them with his hosts and will open the doors of victory before them. What can be done this year to be better prepared in the future to assist the friends to internalize certain facts affecting the progress of the cause? Understanding the nature of divine assistance takes on a new measure of significance when we realize, as guided by the House of Justice, that it affects what we do and how we do our services to the faith. The Supreme Body, writing to a National Assembly, says the progress of the cause depends upon many factors and explains that some factors are directly the result of the actions of the Baha'is, and if the Baha'is will but do their part, however unpromising their prospect, Baha'u'llah is able to open doors and change conditions in ways far beyond our understanding. The first thing among what we can do, the House of Justice says, is a greater realization of the power of Baha'u'llah to reinforce the efforts of those who serve him, his emphatic promise to do, and the impotence of all our deeds without this divine assistance. So essential this realization must be that the House of Justice clearly says any evaluation of a situation is entirely misleading if it does not take this supreme power into consideration. This is so because, in the words of the House of Justice, constant consciousness of dependence upon him enables the Baha'is to formulate audacious plans and confidently carry them through to completion in the face of seemingly insuperable obstacles. And it is reliance upon Baha'u'llah that will enable the friends to do their utmost to fulfill the goals of the plan. The urgency and the importance of achieving the goals of the current 9-year plan can be further understood at a deeper level by reflecting on what the House of Justice told us in its message of 25th November 2020, that says the decades ahead are set to bring with them challenges among the most daunting that the human family has ever had to face. Elaborating that it is against this background of furious storms lashing humanity that the arc of the cause is about to embark upon a series of plans that will carry it into the 3rd century of the Baha'i era and significantly strengthen the Baha'i community's capacity for realizing the society-building powers of the faith. And when the 9-year plan was launched, the House of Justice told the Baha'is that it will make demands of the individual believer, the community, and the institutions reminiscent of the demands that the Guardian made of the Baha'i world at the outset of the 10-year crusade. Once a cluster reviews its progress over the first 3 years of the 9-year plan, it will be able to better identify further preparatory steps to put its community building process beyond Rizwan 2026 on a stronger footing. It's therefore logical to say that the preparatory work this year should focus on moving all aspects of the process at the cluster level a few steps closer to the vision given to us by the House of Justice. That is, reviewing, analyzing, following up, planning, acting in a posture of learning, and guiding the work. Even just formulating, for instance, a simple cluster annual plan, a plan based on reading the realities of the area, availability of human resources, and the opportunities available, plans that show goals to be achieved and a path to achieve each goal, including a breakdown of what is to be done in each cycle of growth, for instance, can prove to be a very effective step in this direction. Such plans, however, are often non-existent or do not have enough clarity to serve as an instrument to mobilize all the human resources available in the cluster. But the statement of the House of Justice that every advance made in the fleeting months before next Rizwan will better equip the community of the greatest name for what it must accomplish in the plan's second phase is enough to stir us all to appreciate the urgency and the significance of any work that can be undertaken this year. It is with respect to these possibilities that I would like to share with you a few thoughts based on my limited experience and born out of the recent privilege I had of discussing the movement of a few clusters with friends in Africa and in Canada. I'm doing so following requests made by the friends in 3 provinces in Western Canada. First is the question of a space at the cluster level for guiding the process of growth, including answering many practical questions about growth coming from people in the cluster. The House of Justice clearly states that in every cluster, the institutions and agencies guiding the process, the auxiliary board members and the institute, together with the area teaching committee, need to examine the dynamics of growth on a regular basis and analyze the way in which these elements are working together in order to identify gaps and determine what adjustments should be made. It is not possible to overstate the vital importance of such a space functioning with regularity and efficiency if we really want to see an acceleration in growth in many clusters. Doing so appears to me to be a main step towards promoting an ongoing process of thinking about growth and will gradually create an organized mobilization of all local resources committed to advancing the process of the Divan Plan at the cluster level. During this crucial year, an essential step towards making progress and ensuring its efficiency would be for many clusters to clarify issues such as the following for themselves. Who from each of the cluster agencies is designated to regularly attend these gatherings? For instance, has an assistant been designated to attend with the auxiliary board member or on their behalf if the board member who has many other responsibilities cannot be present? If there is no clear structure for the training institute at the cluster level, who can be designated to address the matter of strengthening the training institute at the cluster level and to represent it in these regular gatherings? If the cluster does not have an area teaching committee, can one of the assistants to the auxiliary board members or 1 or 2 other individuals with a passion for teaching be invited to take on some of the responsibilities of an ATC in these meetings? For effective guiding of the growth process and for the friends to have a place to turn to, consultation and reflection undertaken by the cluster agencies must become more effective over time. An exploration of the elements that can contribute to this effectiveness should be one of the objects of learning and subjects for reflection. In this respect, it may be useful to consider questions such as the following. Will making a schedule of the meetings for the whole year promote better attendance? Who will facilitate the consultation and the reflection at these meetings? Who will remind others of the upcoming meeting? Who will take a lead in preparing the agenda for the upcoming meeting? How will issues that need to be addressed in these meetings find their way to the agenda? Who will prepare the background materials and distribute them ahead of time of the meeting, thereby contributing to the efficiency of the use of time? What is needed to ensure that such background materials will include the guidance of the House of Justice, learning from the counselors, and experiences accumulated from elsewhere relevant to the issues on the agenda? Who will take the record of the discussions in the meeting? How will the friends in the cluster hear the answers to their questions related to growth that emerges in these gatherings? Second is effective planning at the cluster level. We are aware of the guidance of the House of Justice that the work of the 9-year plan comprises two essential spiritual undertakings: diffusing the light of Baha'u'llah's revelation ever more widely and extending the roots of his faith ever more deeply into the soil of society. We also know that each of these pursuits, in the words of the House of Justice, have measurable outcomes, and we are very mindful of the encouragement of the House of Justice to reflect upon how different actions look when viewed in light of the society-building power they release. No matter how humble the beginning, to prepare an analysis of growth in the past 12 months and make a plan for the coming year, addressing the following two areas of activity. One, strengthening of the training institute at the cluster level, and two, different dimensions of the community building work that is taking place in that cluster. Based on the guidance of the House of Justice, these dimensions in Milestone 3 clusters include, as you know, the following: work in the neighborhoods of focus, participation of the generality of the believers wherever they reside in the cluster, whether they work as a nucleus of friends or whether they follow their own individual teaching plans, working with the receptive populations scattered in the cluster, and the work spearheaded by the youth. My understanding of the guidance of the House of Justice also suggests that progress along any of these dimensions demand a process of learning embedded in each one of them, the capacity to know and imaginatively apply the elements of the plan's framework for action to each, the emergence of a group of individuals and families dedicated to such aspects of the work, and effective arrangements that offer ongoing support to these friends. The idea is not, once again, to do all of this during this year, as that would clearly be impossible, but preparing to become better equipped for the second phase of the plan can include, for instance, arranging during the remaining months of this year to give adequate attention to the following. One is prepare a simple compilation of the available guidance of the House of Justice on specific subjects related to various dimensions of growth. Encourage those involved in each of these dimensions to develop the habit of studying the guidance, regularly, ensuring that work is advancing in light of the guidance both previous and current. An example of such compilations would be community building process in the neighborhoods of focus, working with a receptive population, local spiritual assemblies, and community building. Second is to develop a tool for systematic implementation and follow-up on some of the foundational lines of actions in a cluster, such as the following: strengthening the training institute at the cluster level, assisting the generality of the believers wherever they reside in the cluster to intensify their teaching endeavors, assisting cluster agencies to enhance the efficacy of cycles of growth, and supporting the teaching work being done by the generality of believers, furthering the outward-looking orientation of the community, and putting the learning process at the cluster level on a stronger footing. The tool that I refer to is an evolving working document of a few pages, which typically includes a selection of the relevant guidance of the House of Justice, proven strategies based on the experience of the Baha'i world, and one example of a methodology of how to implement it in a spirit of action and reflection. Tools such as this, prepared in consultation with the friends and used in the cluster I visited recently, all have this basic structure. For example, the tool for strengthening the training institute at the cluster level includes both selected guidance and a summary of the guidance on issues such as the role of the training institute in community building, its tasks and responsibilities, the institute as a structure, the strategies, as well as the first step to strengthening the training institute, indicators of a strong training institute, the role of individuals in strengthening the training institute at the cluster level, a simple approach to assess the current strength of a training institute, planning for strengthening a training institute at the cluster level, steps such as make a list of the most urgent areas in need of strengthening, select 2 or 3 of them to be achieved during the next 12 months, these becoming the goals of the annual plan for strengthening the training institute at the cluster level, set out a path for achieving each of the goals, and allocating adequate resources, time, space, etc., for the implementation and for periodic reflection on the progress of the efforts being made. The empowerment of the generality of the believers to formulate within the context of the 9-year plan their own plans, leading them to systematic action in the field of teaching, may also benefit from a tool that includes, for instance, selected guidance on the indispensability of teaching, some reflections on the concept of nucleus, concentric circles, and the networks to which the friends may belong. Issues affecting teaching work, such as recognizing receptivity, overcoming inadequacies, a new conception of religion, and the need for and the creation of an individual teaching plan, as well as the role of youth. It was felt that for the promotion of individual teaching to succeed, a tool such as the one I earlier described was needed to assist the area teaching committee to become more effective in supporting the teaching work of the friends. This tool encourages the ATC to identify issues related to capacities needed in both in the short term and the long term for universal participation in teaching work, including making the cycles of growth more effective, as well as illustrating how to systematically increase capacities, its own capacities, to support teaching plans made by increasing number of individuals and nuclei of friends. The instrument for furthering the outward-looking orientation of the community, not fully developed, focuses as an initial step on analyzing the issues that would need to be considered if the intention is to welcome large number of people from among the inhabitants of the cluster to the celebration of Bahá'í holidays. And finally, the tool for more sustainable growth through a more systematic learning process at the cluster level consists of relevant guidance, suggestions for a simple way of assessing the strength of the current learning process in a milestone 3 cluster, as well as a proposed approach to work on 2 or 3 small steps every year to move the process to a stronger footing. The idea of these tools is not to mass distribute the documents among the friends or even to study them in large gatherings, as this will most likely have very limited visible results. So one idea worth trying during this year may be to learn if it will prove to be useful for a small group of individuals, assistant to auxiliary board members, and a few volunteers who would serve as collaborators of the ATC or the Council, to study these documents, each with a small relevant number of friends, with the hope to assist them to build their capacity for a given service in question, gradually reaching an increasing number of friends. Some of the volunteers may also, over time, be able to modify and improve the contents of each tool or document and suggest other ways of systematically reaching more people. In summary, dear friends, gaining some experience during this year on the usefulness of the idea of developing tools for a few basic capacities that need to be urgently developed in every cluster, and the use of volunteer collaborators to gradually reach more people could be another good preparation for phase 2 of the 9-year plan. Thank you for your patience, and I wish you a wonderful and productive last year of phase 1 of the 9-year plan. Thank you.